Things got pretty heated in one Bay Area university today as pro-Palestinian protests continue to spread to campuses all across the country. Good evening, I'm Ryan Yamamoto.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. Stanford, just one of the latest schools where demonstrators have now set up encampments.
Something that Stanford gives to us? No!
This was a scene in Palo Alto within the last few hours. Our Kelsi Thorud spoke to protesters and their critics about the growing divide on campus as they wrap up the school year.
Mahina Kaomea spent her Friday here among the tarps and tents pitched in the center of Stanford's campus by her and fellow pro-Palestinian protesters who are calling on the university to cut ties with companies that do business with Israel.
We're planning to stay here to insist that the university discloses and divests from occupied Palestine, and I think so many of us are willing to be here for as long as is necessary for the university to hear us.
This encampment at Stanford is just one of dozens of similar protests popping up on college campuses across the country. Mahina told me students here want the administration to know they have a stake in this conflict and will use their voices to try and create change.
I think that we have a very unique responsibility because we're the ones who will inherit the future of the earth.
But Mahina and her classmates aren't the only ones with strong opinions on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. At one point, emotions flared when a parent confronted the protesters.
What do you have to say? Yes, for us to condemn genocide, to condemn complicity in genocide, to condemn war crimes and crimes against humanity. That is why.
That parent was Shahar Sahati. He was on campus with his daughter, who's slated to start at Stanford in the fall. He told me he's Jewish. He fled his home country of Iran as a child to Israel and lived there for years. He said seeing the encampment in the middle of the university was just too much for him.
I couldn't resist it anymore. I had to open my mouth and try to understand what's going on in here. They are brainwashing people in Stanford. They have to be the smartest kids in the world. They should do the research on their own, not to listen to a bunch of lies that these people are creating here.
But Mahina and her fellow protesters are standing by their opinions, saying they will continue to occupy the center of campus until the administration meets their demands, despite any consequences that may come.
The bigger risk is to stay silent. The bigger risk is to be complicit in the university's investments in deep military violence. And so I think we're willing to take that risk, and we're willing to stay here for as long as we can, as long as possible, to really change their minds and to hold space for awareness about this.
And Stanford University officials did send us a statement saying that these student protesters are in violation of university policy. They say they have already submitted the names of these student protesters to the university and started the student conduct process. This all comes with just a month and a half left in the school year.
Protests over the war in Gaza have erupted on campuses all across the country. At UC Berkeley, protesters have been camping out on Sproul Plaza for days now, calling for universities to divest from companies involved in Israel's war effort. Meantime, on other major campuses, protests have led to clashes between demonstrators and police.
And this was the scene yesterday at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Video from CNN shows pro-Palestinian protesters forcibly arrested. Among those detained, at least 2 professors.
Shame on you! May you never live another day!
I am a professor!
This is an Emory professor, everyone!
I am a professor of economics!
Those 2 police officers on top of economics professor Carolyn Folan. And campus unrest has been boiling over elsewhere around the globe, too.
Pro-Palestinian demonstrators blocked access to a campus building at the Paris Institute of Political Studies. Later, they were met by pro-Israel protesters. And in London, encampment protests have been taking shape on college campuses as well.